Well, welcome to Martini Time. It's been a nice rainy day here in Blackstone, the center of the world, but then you're the center too. But fortunately for us, the rain just lasts today. But you know, hurricanes have been in our minds, in my mind anyway, and I've been using it as a metaphor or a model to describe a lot of things. Trump, for instance. Our own personal stories become hurricanes, a force. And the title of this talk is The Self-Sustaining Hurricane. Hurricanes don't need external forces to keep them going. They're self-sustaining. So it's very interesting using this as a model. I was writing today about Jim Bakker, and he's in the news. Primarily, if you say anything today that is just outrageous, you're going to get in the news. So Jim Bakker gets in the news, at least on Facebook, on one of the passing around, where he says that if Trump is impeached, it will cause the Christians will rise up in a civil war. Well, he got in the news, but anyway, I was just surprised to see him back. And when I Googled his name, I mean, he's got a whole new hurricane going. You know, remember Jim Bakker and Tammy back in the 70s? They were the first. They were among the first to create the televangelistic hurricane. It was a new invention, or a new phenomena. It was a self-sustaining, growing vortex that just brought people and their money into it, and it all went down this big drain hole into the bank account of Jim Bakker. That's a marvelous invention. Imagine the feeling you would have if you created this thing and you just stood there with your bank account open and all millions of people just gave your money and it just all poured down that little, it just went around like a roulette wheel, wow, 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 poop into your bank account. And it was unending. And all you had to do was kind of like stand in the center. You didn't have to really do anything to make people give money. You just had to kind of like guide the hurricane, And that reminded me, when I was working in the 70s, at the time, Jim Bakker was whirling his... I forgot to mention this. This is a Buddhist prayer wheel. But it just reminded me of the hurricane model we're talking about. You see, it takes very little effort for me to keep this thing spinning. Right? Very little effort. So, I was working at Broadview Institute for Retarded, severely retarded, in Cleveland, Ohio. And I got to blow my nose. And, excuse me a minute. And I was hired as a vocational supervisor. So you have these big rooms, and the whole idea behind our state institution, and these workshops, were that you're going to train the retarded people to do some kind of productive work in society, like in an adult workshop. Well, these were severely retarded, so if you could get them to an adult workshop, that would be an accomplishment. So that was very big up in Cleveland at the time, because these workshops would do assembly line work for corporations, like putting napkins in a box and stuff like that. So it was before everything was shipped to China. But anyway, I was hired as a vocational supervisor, and I went down there, and the work tables were basically work assignments where they would put nuts in a jar, pour the jar out, put the nuts back in it. Or they would just do this mundane packaging. But each one was an individual worker. And the supervisors would sit around and drink coffee, and if they didn't put any force on the workers, they would stop. Y'all get back to work now. Boom, boom, and they would get back to work. And they would leave the room. They would stop and talk, and they would stop, you see. So it needed an external force to keep it going. So I created an interactive system which looked like a little miniature amusement park with little slides and boxes you put things through, and everybody had a little job, and it was all interrelated. One person would put the nut on the slide, and the other person would catch it, and he would take it to another place, and he would do something with it, and somebody else would catch that. And so it was all like a little interactive system, and everybody had a job according to their capacity. Some people couldn't do some jobs, so and everybody had a place according to their needs and according to their capacity, and the whole thing was self-sustaining. The supervisors could have taken a vacation. The people just loved doing it. They would sit there and do it all day. Didn't have to touch them. Didn't have to whip them. Well, they didn't whip them. Didn't have to make them work. Didn't have to give them something to work. They loved the work. Of course, this didn't fit into the institution, so eventually I was fired. But that's another story. But anyway, I just remembered that because that was a self-sustaining system. And a hurricane is a self-sustaining system. And televangelism is a self-sustaining system. It looks like that prayer wheel. It looks like a galaxy going around a black hole. You see, so and you don't have to make that system go. You just create the system, and it just runs, and people joyously come running and pour their money into it. They don't have to tell them to do it. Well, you put an ad out there or something, tell them, do this, do that. But people like to do it. They enjoy doing it. Can't keep them away from it. And these started in the 70s because that's when TV and cable, I guess cable started then. But anyway, it was a media phenomena. Television, TV evangelists didn't exist before TV. And before everybody had a TV in their house. And before the nation got fragmented into little suburban houses. You see, America got fragmented in the 50s. People left the cities and went to the suburbs. They had ticky-tock houses, Houses were built and urban sprawled, you see, and factories. So you work in a factory and your family networks, and you leave your hometown and you go to the cities and everything. So this is a great mobile, fragmented type of society we created. And what is it that people long for? If you could find out what people want and provide that, you can create a self-sustaining system. Well, what people really wanted was to belong. And since God was missing from this secular, humanistic, liberal society, it wasn't a theocracy, so people want to be in alignment with God. And people want to be in alignment with something bigger than themselves so they can feel the force of this vortex in this galaxy they belong to. And they can contribute and make it run. And the more it runs, the more belonging they feel, the more power they feel by belonging to something that's powerful, that's doing God's work, you see. So I really think that the warm water, which created these evangelical systems, was by our natural desire to belong and be in alignment with God, or truth, you see. Corporations create vortexes, but we know they're for profit. But then if you have a non-profit system, you see, then the money goes to good works. But they turned out to be for profit. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, so I just began looking. So Trump is like a televangelism, although he's a secular one. But the televangelists are hooking right into him when Jim Baker says if they impeach Trump, the Christians are going to have a civil war. And I forgot her name now, but one of Trump's religious advisors, is trained, if you don't like Trump, you don't like God, or something like that. So Trump is being associated with God, the vortex of the TV media. Trump is a vortex. I say vortex. You know what that looks like? It's kind of like looks like the water in a drain hole in a tub. You pull the plug and you get this woo like that. A whirlpool. A whirlpool, you know, but it sprays out and gets bigger. Has a center. If you take the center out, it falls apart. So every vortex has a center, you see. And as with Jim Bakker and all of these TV vortexes, the center has a bank account under it. See? It's rare that you find a vortex that sends the wealth out back to the people that put into it. Of course, these Amway, remember those systems? Amway was a vortex that created a self-generating system, whereas you didn't just buy something, you became a model of the system. So you became a co-creator in the system by getting people to work for you. And the people that work for you got people to work for them. And the people that work for them got people to work for them. So this was an expanding vortex, you see, where everybody was supposed to get rich. And everybody doesn't get rich. I tried it several times and never did get rich. I tried several of them. Because they all have different names. And they're attractive to people who want money and want to be an entrepreneur, you see. But anyway, those are all dead vortexes of my past, you know. So I've just been looking at this model of the hurricane because it's in our minds now, and how this works. And the hurricane works when it passes over warm water. But if it passes over the ground of reality, it begins to lose force. It can't be sustained over reality. It can only be sustained over warm water. And of course, the warm water for the televangelism and these other media systems is the media. The media is the water upon which these vortexes rise and sweep over the country for a while, and then they pass over reality, and they pass over reality and they fade away, you see. So right now, and then I talked yesterday, or I forget, I lose track, but I talked about the vortex, the hurricane, as being a model for our own self, our own world. Each of us is a little hurricane. Each of us is a little vortex of energy moving across time with an eye of me. So each of us, when I say you are the world and the world is you, what I mean is that you are the center of your galaxy. You are the center of the world from your viewpoint, your eye. You look out on the world from its center. Wherever you go, you are at the center of your world. It's like a GPS tracker. The GPS tracker is a great paradigm for this, a model for the center of the world. You are the center of the world. When you're on a GPS map, you're at the center, and wherever you go, the world moves around you. The world boots around you. So wherever you go, you're at the center. On a flat map, you're not at the center. You're on the map. And there is no center to the map. There is no center to the flat map of the world. That's why we need a center. Because without a center, the information and the data that we pick up and see doesn't have any orientation. It doesn't integrate. It's just psychosis. So we have a center, an I, a me, that integrates reality. And what is the center? How does the center of me integrate reality? By my story. And where does my story come from? But my conditioning, my inheritance, where I'm brought up, my religion, my political views, my family, my experiences, my traumas, my neuroses, everything is my story. So my story continues in time with me as the main character, and this creates a hurricane or a vortex that draws in data and relationships, but it's all reference to me as the center pole, you see. When we spin the wheel, the reference point is the center. Everything spins around that. So this is me. Everything spins around me, you see. Everything spins around my center. But the spiritual practice, the spiritual awakening, the Dharma path, is when you realize that it's not working. It's realizing that your prayers aren't being answered. You realize that you're going in circles. You realize that you're repeating yourself. Something's missing. Something's wrong. So you begin to question. You begin to ask questions about the truth. Aha! Now the hurricane is going over the ground of reality. And you begin to check the story of your hurricane with reality. Is this true? What is the truth here, you see? So we begin in Zen, this is called the great doubt. You will begin to question my beliefs and my repeated patterns and my vortex, you know. And I begin to look and question. And that questioning is the ground that begins to dissipate the force of the karmic hurricane, the Groundhog Day, you see. It begins to lose and fragment and break apart. Like when you're watching digital TV or satellite TV and the storm gets in between the receiver, the dish, and the satellite, break up. You say, whoa, what's going on? My vortex is breaking up. The hurricane of me is breaking up. And there's great fear. Because if there is no vortex, there's no hurricane of me that organizes everything around me, who will I be if me isn't here? Who will I be if the center isn't here? And this is the fear of chaos, psychosis. There will be nothing to organize meaning in reality. I'll be in oblivion. There's a movie about that. You see, this fear of chaos, because we don't really believe that the ground of reality exists. We just believe our story of reality exists with its reference to me. So the great waking up of America, the great waking up of you and me, is realizing that we've come to the end of our hurricanes. The hurricane of me, the hurricane of all of our beliefs. Even Harvey going to Houston. Houston's belief that it could handle anything has been destroyed. So everybody's saying, oh, Harvey was unexpected. Nobody expected this. Well, that's what life is all about. See? Life is going to inundate your belief system. It's going to overflow your dikes. It's going to break your dams down. You know, it's going to flood your beliefs in your basements of security. You know, it's going to break apart the hurricanes of belief that we've been living in for some time. So even America is with its hurricanes. You see, it's had two hurricanes juxtaposed to each other: the hurricanes of liberalism, Democrats, and the hurricane of Republicans, and they just go like this. You see, like that. Nothing gets done. Nobody moves. Each cancels out the other. Like that. Election after election. Same pattern. Same candidates. Same political propaganda. Same tricks. Keeps the system going, just like Jim Bakker's televangelism. And we keep throwing into it. With the political system, you don't throw money, you throw money into it, you throw your votes into it, you invest in it. So anyway, I've been getting a lot of mileage out of Harvey, and I continue to get mileage out of Trump. Not so much as an attack on Trump, but as using him as a model for something that points beyond Trump. So I don't point at Trump and say Trump is bad. I'm pointing to Trump so Trump can reveal the wisdom that Trump is offering by revealing what makes him work. Because what makes Trump work is what, he is a reflection of us. He is a reflection of our ego and how it turns everything into me against them. And how by creating a them, I create a bigger me. And a big me attracts you. If you don't have a big me and you want a big me, get in my orbit. I'll be big for both of us, you see. So we keep getting stronger and stronger. So I have to have larger and larger crowds to verify the fact that I'm strong. If the crowds dissipate, I fear that I'm losing my power. I fear that I'm breaking up, you see. I'm going over the ground of reality. I'm no longer over the warm water, so I gather strength, you see. So Trump fears reality, just as the hurricane fears the ground. It loses its strength. It needs the strength of ignorance. It needs the strength of people who turn away from their own center and give their center to somebody else. If you join a televangelist, you're giving your center to the televangelist. If you join in a political party, you're giving your center to the leader, to the center of that. If you join a religion, you're giving the center to the authorities, you see. So we're in a process now of reclaiming our center, reclaiming our I, and returning our I to me, to our heart. So everything that we see is judged by my personal experience, my ground, my questioning. If I don't question anything, I just believe everything. I believe whatever promises to give me a strong center. So questioning reality is the ground that dissipates the hurricane of belief, you see. And we look at our world, the modern world, the modern secular world, it's kind of like space. And you've got all these galaxies in there. And every galaxy has a center, a star or a black hole. Looks like a donut. You see, so everything in space goes around some center. So you've got all these different little galaxies and universes. But they all have a center. You have to have a center, or it's just dust. It's just snowstorm. There's no form without a center. It's just dust. As soon as you have a center, you've got form and you've got pattern. Without form, you don't have a pattern. Form comes with pattern. An electron is a particle and a wave. A wave is a pattern. So if you want to ask the questions, you don't question the content, you look at the pattern. What is the pattern of the hurricane? That's what the weathermen will do. What is the pattern? Nobody can end the hurricane. They just say, well, we're going to track it. They track the pattern. So if you want to see the hurricane or belief system that you're caught up in, track the pattern. Look at the pattern of your life. Look at the pattern of your mind. Look at the pattern of your relationships. Look at the patterns in your marriage. Look at the patterns. The truth is in the patterns, not in the content. You see. So there is a revolution in consciousness and an awareness going on because we have to look at the patterns, because if we don't, we're going to die. The patterns that created global warming is creating Hurricane Harvey. And we're not conscious of the patterns because we don't want to look at it. We like our comforts. We like our belief systems. So global warming is all about looking at the patterns and being from the ground, not from the warm water of ignorance. So all of our hurricanes are going over the ground. And we're all leaving the warm water of ignorance and just blind surrender to belief. Just blind surrender to vortexes and belief systems, you see. So anyway, thank you for dropping in, and I'll see you in the morning.